Discovered my daughter crying, eating food scraps. My son-in-law smiled. Then I took a stand. Mary stepped into the kitchen, the scent of burnt pie filling the air, an unintended reminder of the chaos that had taken over. It wasn't unusual to find the remnants of meals spread around her daughter's abode, but this was different. There, on the cold tile floor, sat Claire. She was curled up, sobbing quietly, surrounded by crumpled wrappers and leftover scraps from meals left uneaten. Mary's heart sank. Claire, once so full of life, now seemed overshadowed by a dreary sadness. Dave, lounging in the background, offered nothing but a dismissive smile, wrapped in his routine, oblivious to the emotional storm brewing just a few feet away. Mary's breath caught in her throat, every instinct telling her to console Claire, to lift her out of this dark cloud. But how? Thoughts raced through her mind, a heavy fog of frustration and fear. Mary had devoted herself to her family, taught them resilience, and yet here was her beloved daughter facing an emotional collapse. The maternal urge to protect clashed with her deep-seated fears. What if her support wasn't enough? What if saying the wrong thing only pushed Claire deeper into despair? "Claire," she started, her voice a fragile whisper. Mary had always prided herself on choosing her words carefully, but the weight of the moment pulled at her. She wanted to embrace her daughter, to tell her everything would be fine. But how could she make that promise? What if Claire needed something more, something Mary could not provide? Each second stretched like an eternity, the tension wrapping tightly around her chest as she watched Claire's shoulders shake. Before Mary could gather her thoughts, she turned toward Dave. He was still smiling, lost in his own world, offering empty reassurances that sank like stones in Mary's heart. "She needs you," Mary insisted, her voice rising more than she intended. It was frustrating to see Dave so blind to his wife's struggles. The corporate pressures that consumed Claire were more than just deadlines and meetings. They were tearing at her very sense of self. With each moment, anger and desperation coiled tighter within Mary. How had they reached this point? Mary remembered the values she had instilled in her family: hard work, dedication, sacrifice. Had those principles come at a price? A pitiful price that now snared Claire in darkness? Claire wasn't just struggling with motherhood, she was grappling with her own identity, feeling defeated in her relentless pursuit of success. The world of corporate meetings and strategy didn't leave a space for the creativity that had once marked Claire's childhood. Mary's heart ached with this realization. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As Mary veered back to Claire, determination muddled with anxiety coursed through her. She sensed a hidden talent within Claire, a gift for culinary arts buried under layers of expectation and conformity. This crisis could be the chance for Claire to reclaim her passion, but could she confront Dave? Could she support Claire without flinging herself into a battle? Internal tension mounted as Mary tightened her grip on the kitchen counter, bracing herself for an uphill struggle that loomed. The fight for her daughter's happiness surged within her, igniting the spark needed for transformation. Yet the unresolved conflict swirled dangerously around her, leaving her shaken, with one burning question pressing harder. Would Claire find her way back to herself? Or would Mary's stand be enough to dismantle the barriers standing in their way? Mary inhaled deeply, contemplating the moment as she knelt beside Claire. Her daughter's tear-streaked face mirrored the pain she felt coiling in her own heart. She needed to bridge this gap, to be the beacon of clarity Claire had lost sight of, but how to do so without making empty promises? "Claire, look at me," she said, gently placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. The girl's eyes met hers, glistening with sorrow, yet searching for guidance. Mary searched within for the right approach. This wasn't just about comfort. Claire was wrestling with expectations from every direction. Her job, motherhood, and now, the looming specter of her own unhappiness. "What if we took a moment to breathe together?" Mary suggested, trying to find a way into Claire's turmoil. It was a flimsy first step, perhaps, but she sensed it could be a doorway. What if we turned this moment of despair into something else? Claire remained silent, her expression caught between doubt and reason. Yet Mary understood that silence was not just resistance, it might be contemplation. As Mary sat beside her, an idea flickered to life. "What was the last recipe you were excited about?" It popped out spontaneously, but she hoped it might lead somewhere. "Remember that cake you always wanted to make for Grandma? The one with the berries?" A small flicker of recognition crossed Claire's face. It was a flicker that ignited a memory of joy rather than duty. Mary pressed on cautiously, feeling the tenuous bonds of hope tighten. "What if we tried making it together, just you and me? No pressure, just the two of us, like old times." Claire's eyes brightened, if only for a fleeting instant. But then the doubt crept in again. It's just so hectic. I don't have time. I need to focus on work." "But is work filling your joy anymore?" Mary challenged softly. "Is it worth feeling like this?" Claire's silence spoke volumes, yet took the conversation deeper. For the first time she seemed open, wrestling with feelings that needed acknowledgement. Mary understood the delicate balance of probing without pushing. This was a murky confrontation, the kind that could fracture hearts or mend them if navigated with care. As they sat, Mary realized she too had a role to play in breaking through this darkness. She had been the emotional backbone of their family, but had never addressed her own growing agitation towards Dave's neglect of Claire. He needed to wake up, to see the woman behind the successful facade. Could she confront him effectively, without unleashing a hurricane of conflict? The thought of Dave sent a chill through her. Yet it was clear. Action needed to be taken. This balance between supporting Claire and confronting the root of her distress required a shift in approach. It wasn't about blame. It was about opening a pathway to healing. "Claire," Mary said, her voice steady, "it's time we both start finding voices we've silenced for too long. I'm standing by you, but it has to be a two-way street. How do we start getting back to who we truly are?" Claire's gaze softened, the spark of her own hidden potential flickering to life. As they sat there in the kitchen, surrounded by remnants of past meals, the moment morphed into a space of possibility. The reality of confronting Dave loomed larger than ever, a necessary but daunting mountain to climb. Would Claire have the strength to reclaim her former self? More importantly, would Mary have the courage to face the true source of Claire's struggles, igniting a battle she had long wanted to avoid? The imminent confrontation would arrive soon, and Mary could feel its approach, the moment of truth that might finally set them free from their chains. Mary stood in the kitchen, heart racing as the impending confrontation with Dave loomed large in her mind. She glanced at Claire, still sitting across from her, tracing a fragile awakening of emotions. The spark ignited in Claire was encouraging, but also terrifying. It seemed to herald a shift, perhaps a revolution, in how they acknowledged their own discontent. With practical resolve, Mary took a step back and assessed the situation. Instead of allowing anxiety to tighten around her, she cultivated clarity. The kitchen around them felt almost suffocating with memories of dinners past, moments where the laughter felt genuine, not forced. Perhaps it was time to clear the air, not just for Claire, but for herself too. "What would you say is one thing you hope for, Claire?" Mary ventured, aware that asking them both to articulate their desires was a delicate task. She wanted Claire to feel empowered, to claim back something lost, but it also pushed Mary to acknowledge what she sought for herself. "I just wish things could feel lighter," Claire murmured, her voice almost breaking. "Like, I want to enjoy my time with the kids, but I feel so burdened with everything else." "Burdened," Mary echoed, reflecting on her own sense of being overwhelmed. The idea of confronting Dave, not just for Claire's well-being but to reclaim her own confidence, felt heavy but necessary. "Do you remember our beach vacations?" she asked suddenly, trying to coax more memories stored within Claire's heart. "The way we'd spend the entire day building sandcastles? We didn't worry about what anyone else thought, just me, you, and the ocean." A hint of a smile played on Claire's lips before fading. "Yeah, but those days are gone, Mom. Life isn't like that anymore." "But what if we created new moments that felt like that?" Mary pressed, feeling a thrill of determination bubble to the surface. "What if we forged our own beach days in the middle of our busy lives? It starts with us deciding that we are deserving of joy." Claire's brow furrowed as she pondered the challenge, a mix of excitement and reluctance swirling inside her. It was an invitation to declare agency over their lives, yet placed a burden of responsibility on her shoulders. Mary sensed the struggle ripple through their shared silence. Mary took a deep breath, recognizing that to support Claire's development, she needed to articulate her own feelings with equal strength. "I've been feeling stuck too, Claire. There's a lot I need to address, especially with your father," she confessed, surprised at her own bravery. The confession hung in the air, weighted with unresolved tensions. "What do you mean?" Claire asked, her expression shifting from confusion to concern. "It's just, I worry that in trying to hold our family together, I've lost my own voice. I see how much you're hurting, and I see how Dad's been viewing everything through a lens of success, but has forgotten about compassion. It's time I pointed this out to him, but I am afraid of the potential fallout." Claire shifted in her seat. "Mom, if we confront them together, it could be liberating." Mary's resolve solidified. They were at a tipping point, both of them. "Yes, together. We empower one another to take the steps we need to reclaim who we are." As realization dawned on both of them, the sense of clarity collided with the urgency of their situation. That was the threshold they stood at, the edge of transformable pain to newfound strength. A shift in the dynamic could change everything, but the thought of openly confronting Dave filled Mary with apprehension. "I will do it, Claire," she finally pronounced, her heart pounding with a newfound determination. "Even if it scares me, we deserve more." The silence that followed amplified their shared commitment, but it wasn't long before Mary's phone buzzed by the sink, cutting through their moment of resolve. It was a text from Dave. The casual tone felt incongruous against the weight of Mary's resolution. She hesitated before checking it, knowing it might pull her back into the status quo. But as she looked at Claire, hope intermingled with dread. Would this be the moment that transformed everything? What awaited Mary and Claire when they challenged the status quo and confronted Dave? The stakes had never been higher. Mary felt an electric jolt course through her as she read Dave's message. He asked about dinner plans like nothing was amiss, each word serving as a reminder of the carefully crafted facade that had long masked the fractures beneath their family dynamics. Mary could feel the tightness in her chest return. Her heart momentarily danced between the weight of the text and the resolve she had just forged with Claire. "Mom, don't let it distract you," Claire urged, her voice breaking through Mary's daze. "You have to stay focused on what you just said. We have to be honest." With a nod, Mary placed her phone face down on the counter, suppressing the urge to respond. She loved Dave, but love must coexist with honesty, or at least that was what she was increasingly beginning to believe. She needed to nurture that conviction, to let it blossom into action. "Right," she said, her voice steadier now. "We have to prepare for this. We both have to be brave." Claire's gaze held a mix of admiration and apprehension. Mary understood the significance of their stepping onto this rocky path together. It was both frightening and exhilarating, much like those days spent on the beach, where joy seemed simple but was often clouded by adult worries. Mary cross-referenced her own thoughts against the bubbling sea of emotions. What does bravery mean beyond the act itself? It was more than just confronting Dave. It was about standing firm in her identity, reclaiming her voice, her dignity, and equally advocating for Claire. The interrelation of their struggles became clearer. Their empowerment was not singular, but spherical. They grew stronger together, defying the silence that had become comfortable, yet suffocating. "I think we should write down what we want to say," Claire suggested, as though sensing Mary needed a tangible way forward. "Maybe we can organize our thoughts before the confrontation." Mary's heart swelled with pride. Claire was catching on to the importance of articulating their desires, outlining what they felt was necessary for their own restoration. Excellent idea. She momentarily envisioned their dialogue framed not in conflict, but in a collective search for understanding. There was something therapeutic in the act of writing, allowing feelings to disentangle from the chaos in their minds. As they took to the kitchen table, pen and paper at hand, Mary could feel a growing sense of purpose. Each word they drafted was a declaration of their needs, a map leading them through uncertain waters toward a brighter future. They outlined feelings of suffocation, expectations that had been foisted upon them, and visions of what joy could look like in their lives. Conversations filled with honesty instead of superficial niceties. An hour passed in focused solidarity, each line acting as a building block for the confrontation ahead. Mary's anxiety waned with every sentence crafted, replaced by anticipation and empowerment. They were destabilizing the very foundation that had kept them trapped for so long. But the unknown felt intriguingly liberating. As they finalized their notes, Claire's shoulders seemed to relax, and her smile regained its vigor. Small victories, Mary thought to herself. Stepping stones. They were formulating a strategy to dismantle the discomfort in their lives and replace it with something meaningful. Just as they were about to move on to discussing logistics for the confrontation, Mary's phone buzzed again, this time ringing insistently. She hesitated, feeling the prick of anxiety return for a moment. "Maybe I should answer," she said, glancing at Claire, whose expression mingled eagerness with trepidation. "It could be important." "No," Claire interrupted firmly, a newfound assertiveness breaking through the remaining tension in the room. "This is our moment. Don't let it slip away." Mary swallowed hard, the weight of choice tugging at her. Would she allow the past to intrude yet again, or claim the present they were carving out for themselves? With the realization that their courage could shatter chains of complacency, she placed the phone back down. "Together?" Mary asked, looking into Claire's eyes, seeking confirmation. "Together," Claire replied, a bright spark of defiance illuminating her features. With resolve coursing through them, they stood poised at the threshold. What awaited them when they finally crossed into the territory of honesty with Dave? Would the confrontation solidify their newfound strength, or fracture their family further? The air pulsed with unresolved tension, ripe with the promise of transformation. The moment felt surreal as Mary and Claire exchanged a determined glance, the notes before them representing a catalyst for change. They took a collective breath, letting the profound stillness in the kitchen settle around them. The flickering light overhead reflected their shared resolve, the glow representing both enlightenment and the daunting uncertainty of what lay ahead. "I think we should get specific," Claire proposed, fiddling nervously with a pen, the rhythmic motion echoing her mingled anxiety and anticipation. "What do we want to ask him?" Mary nodded, feeling a spark of urgency. "We need to express our needs and desires clearly. If we dance around the topic, we risk falling back into old patterns." Her mind raced as she visualized the conversation with Dave. The blend of fear and hope simmered within her, amplifying her instincts. Could she articulate her unvoiced concerns? Would he listen? In a small, resolute voice, Claire edged in. "I want him to know that it's not just the way he treats us. It's the underlying assumptions he holds about who we should be. I'm tired of feeling small in my own home." Each word felt like a deliberate incision into the layers of neglect their family had suffered. Mary's heart raced. Claire's articulation hit home, drawing attention to their shared invisible burdens. It wasn't merely about grievances, it was essentially about recognition, visibility, and respect. The conversation with Dave had to reflect their realities, stripped of pretense. This collective strength stirred something within Mary. She felt a grit that had been absent for too long. To counter his excuses, we can present evidence, Mary suggested, feeling the momentum build. Let's prep some scenarios where we felt unheard or dismissed. It'll anchor the conversation in reality. The very act of pinpointing instances painted a vivid portrait of their struggles and thus illuminated their path ahead. As they drafted a list, memories surged. A time during a family dinner when Dave had dominated the conversation, barely letting anyone else speak. An event where Claire had shared a personal success but had been met with silence, his eyes glued to his phone, uninterested. Each recollection reinforced their resolve, transforming their vulnerable feelings into a powerful testimony. With each memory penned, Mary found solace in the shared experience with Claire. "It's about reclaiming our narratives," she murmured. "We'll let him know this isn't just about criticism, it's about cultivating understanding." Societal expectations, personal illusions, shattered dreams, all the unspoken weight they carried surged to the surface, each word liberating a piece of her ingrained hesitance. After hours of concentrated effort, they lay their notes down, gazing at their work with a sense of accomplishment. Claire's smile had broadened, her earlier nervousness dissipating into exhilaration. "I feel powerful," she said. "We can step into this with purpose." The kitchen had transformed from a mere backdrop to an arena of empowerment, but the undercurrents of anxiety remained. Mary was now acutely aware that clarity often paved the way for tumult. Would confronting Dave crystallize their strength, or would it expose fractures of resentment suffocating beneath the surface? Yet a fire ignited in Mary's core, igniting her passion for truth. This was more than a confrontation, it was a reclamation, not just for her own identity, but for Claire's as well. They would no longer linger in the shadows of family dysfunction, perpetually waiting for change to unfold like some distant dream. Just as their resolve solidified, a chilling thought surged through Mary's mind. What if Dave reacted violently, dismissively, or even defensively? She was caught between an exhilarating sense of empowerment and the fear of potential fallout. "Claire," she muttered, what if he doesn't understand? What if this backfires?" Claire met her gaze, the flicker of uncertainty reflected in her eyes. "Then we face it together," she declared, her voice steadier than before. As their hands intertwined, the question loomed larger than ever. Were they truly ready to confront the potential chaos that honesty could bring? Would the individual losses lead to a transformation worth enduring? The moment they had been honing their courage for was drawing painfully close, and the weight of anticipation held its breath in the air, pregnant with fear and liberation alike. What awaited them in that conversation would now decide the entire course of their lives. Treading potentially dangerous waters, they had opened the door to a new chapter of existence. Yet the danger lurked just beyond the threshold. The moment was shifting. It was time to face the truth, whatever form it might take. Would Dave welcome honesty, or reject it vehemently? As dawn broke the next day, Mary lingered in the quiet of the living room, the faint light casting long shadows that danced across the walls. It was a time for introspection before the storm. The conversation with Dave would come soon. She took a deep breath, allowing herself to feel the tension that coursed through her body like a taut wire. Mary remembered her own childhood, days of compliance and suppressed feelings. Her parents had built an environment where silence was golden and questions were frowned upon. Yet now, that silence seemed more like a straitjacket. She had vowed to break that cycle. Standing at the threshold of confronting Dave heightened her awareness. The past and present collided within her, sending a shiver down her spine. "Today, everything changes," she murmured to herself, looking out the window at the world awakening outside. The birds chirped confidently, seemingly the embodiment of liberation that she craved to experience. Could she channel that energy? With determination, she turned her focus back to her notes. Each line was a promise to herself. Each scenario, crafted with care, aimed to lay bare the emotional truths she had buried for years. This wasn't merely about calling Dave out. It was about constructing a platform where her voice mattered and merging paths with Claire's for a family that had failed to thrive. Yet vulnerability crept in again. What if he dismissed her efforts? Would their shared resolve hold? Claire bounced into the room, her hair still damp from the shower, eyes sparking with morning energy. "I was thinking about how we need to keep it conversational," she announced, a hint of strategy illuminating her face. "If it turns into an argument, we might just lose him. We want him to think with us, not drown in defensiveness." "Right," Mary agreed, but her heart raced. What do we do if he shuts down? If he goes back to that defensive shell? "Then we invoke the power of empathy," Claire suggested, her confidence not diminishing. "Maybe start with something like, 'We know you care,' before diving into our feelings. A little olive branch can go a long way." Mary approached Claire's idea with caution. The concept of softening the blow seemed risky, yet strategic. Empathy could help, but it needs to feel genuine. Do we have it in ourselves to address truthfully? "Yes, this is our opportunity," Claire affirmed. "Think about all those little moments of truth we've sketched out together. They're valid. We can show him how his actions impact us profoundly." With renewed focus, Mary and Claire honed in on their approach, rehearsing the conversation as if anticipating a performance. The emotional stakes were unmistakable. The air vibrated with the intentions behind each spoken word. Mary felt an inner shift happening, not just preparation, but a deepening self-awareness. She was stepping beyond fear, adopting a stance of confidence that she rarely allowed herself. Who knew that embracing vulnerability could be so unwavering? As the clock ticked onward, her stomach fluttered at the impending confrontation. Each second chipped away at her resolve, but she wouldn't falter. She had to believe in the merit of the truth they were advocating for. Finally, when the moment arrived, Dave shuffled into the living room, blissfully unaware of the charged atmosphere that enveloped them. "What's going on, you two?" he asked casually as he dropped his bag onto the couch. A heavy pause fell like a thick mist, time stretching painfully as Mary exchanged a glance with Claire. The moment loomed, surreal and vibrant, ready to erupt. Suddenly, the words swelled within Mary, demanding to be vocalized, yet fear clawed at the edges of her resolve. "Dave, we need to talk," she finally said, her voice steady and deliberate, emboldened by the weight of everything that had led to this confrontation. But as she uttered those words, an unsettling thought pricked at her mind. Did they truly grasp the depth of what it meant to confront the years of built-up resentment? Would they be ready for the immediate backlash that might arise? In that instant, Mary had crossed the threshold, and there was no turning back now. The power of honesty hung in the air, and what would unfurl next? The battle for their voices had commenced. Would it lead to liberation or fracture their fragile bond? Mary's heart raced as she watched Dave's casual demeanor morph into confusion and then concern. She felt the weight of her steady gaze anchored him, and she knew it was vital to set the tone now, to prevent the conversation from veering into dangerous waters. This was not just about confronting him. It was about instilling the idea that they were a united front and that their love deserved more than surface-level conversations. Claire joined in, her presence a comforting reassurance as she stepped forward. "We need to address some things that have been weighing on us, Dave. It's important," she added, her tone clear and confident, echoing the strategy they had practiced. Dave's brow furrowed, a flicker of apprehension crossing his eyes. "What do you mean, weighing on you?" Mary felt the shift in energy, the tension in the air palpable. She took a deep breath, grounding herself further, holding on to the confidence that had begun to seep into her bones. This was where she could find her voice. Her own truth demanded acknowledgement. Those moments you often brush off, the times you're absent or disconnected, they matter, Mary began, choosing her words deliberately. When you're not present, we feel it. It impacts our family. It impacts Claire. It impacts me. Dave's expression darkened. I thought we were doing fine. I've been busy with work. It's more than that, Claire interjected, her eyes fierce with determination. You might not realize it, but we need you to engage with us emotionally. It's not just about physical presence, it's about being there in spirit, too. Mary felt the sharpness of the moment, the fear lurking beneath the surface. What if he lashed out? What if their honesty backfired? She steadied herself, reminding herself that vulnerability, while terrifying, could also kindle understanding. Dave, she continued, we understand life gets busy. We've both sacrificed our own lives in pursuit of stability for this family. But at what cost? Her voice trembled slightly, raw with honesty. We never seem to talk, really talk, about how our decisions affect each other. We want you to be part of this family beyond just being present. He shifted uncomfortably, clenching his jaw as if wrestling with her words. She noticed the familiar signs, the way he sat back, arms crossed, and how his expression hardened. It sent a flicker of doubt through her. Maybe they were losing him. Would he retreat completely into that defensive shell they dreaded? Yet, Claire held her gaze steady. We all care deeply about this family. That's why this conversation matters. We're not here to attack you, but to express what's been festering beneath the surface. We want to move forward. Her tone negotiated strength and calm, keeping the door open for dialogue. As the words sunk in, Mary felt a thread of hope unravel amid the uncertainty. Despite the heaviness of the conversation, this moment signified a growing resolve within her. They awaited his response, hearts pounding in unison, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. I didn't realize it was that serious, Dave finally admitted, slowly uncrossing his arms. The vulnerability in his admission caught Mary off guard, leaving her momentarily speechless. Could this be a breakthrough? However, the very thought also triggered a sense of caution within her. What if he just felt overwhelmed? She couldn't afford to allow any catharsis to become buried beneath a facade of control. Let's dig deeper then, Mary said, emboldened by his admission, yet laden with the weight of honesty. What does that seriousness feel like for you? In that moment, Mary grasped the thread of connection now available. The cracks in their familial veneer were beginning to reveal a deeper truth, a path toward transformation. Would this honesty pave the way for healing, or would it further fracture their intentions? As uncertainty lingered in the air, heavy as the morning dew, Mary's mind raced with the possibilities of what hung in the balance, a family reborn or a path further soaked in turmoil. What awaited them in this maze of emotional discovery? Mary felt the shift in the atmosphere as she waited for Dave's response. The fragile hope they had ignited now felt like an ember, vulnerable yet pulsing with possibilities. She needed to stay grounded. Clenching her fists slightly, she focused on her breathing, reminding herself that they had crossed a threshold. What does that seriousness feel like for you? She had asked. But as the silence stretched, the question hung heavier than intended. Dave was staring at the floor, lost in thought, and her heart began to race again. I don't know, he finally muttered. It's just... life has been hard. The kids, the bills, then work, and I thought if I just pushed through it all, it would get easier. It sounds like you're carrying a lot on your own, Claire interjected. Her voice was steady, but Mary felt the tremor in Dave's shoulders, a testament to all the burdens he didn't want to show them. Maybe so, he admitted, his voice cracking like ice underfoot. But I didn't think it bothered you both as much as it does. Mary exchanged a glance with Claire, both of them recognizing the exit ramp they'd tiptoed close to. She cleared her throat softly, trying to find just the right words to steer the conversation where they needed it to go. We know you're trying, but what if sharing those burdens might help? Dave's eyes darted up to meet hers, vulnerability flickering there like a candle's flame. You think that would change anything? It could, Mary proposed, her voice infused with determination. If we can be honest about how we feel, maybe we can figure out what we need as a family. We want you to be part of it, all of it. For a moment he remained silent, contemplating her proposal as if trying to weigh the costs and benefits of this emotional transaction. Mary felt the room closing in on them, echoed by the labyrinth of complexities surrounding their family. Then, unexpectedly, Dave leaned forward. "I've been feeling lost, Mary. I thought pushing myself to work more would make things better. I didn't realize it made us all feel more disconnected." She couldn't believe her ears. This was more than she had anticipated. "It's okay to feel lost," Claire urged, her tone warm and accepting. "We all do at times. It's part of what makes us human, even if it's uncomfortable. What matters is realizing we're in this together." Mary sensed the moment shift. There was a crack forming in the wall he'd built around himself. "I guess I didn't give you girls enough credit," he admitted, shame creeping into his voice like shadow. "I thought I had everything under control." "You're not alone in that," Mary admitted, taking a step closer. "We've both struggled too, just to keep things from falling apart. But pretending we're fine isn't working. We need each other, more than just physically, but emotionally." As the tension eased slightly, Mary noticed how Dave began to relax his shoulders. Maybe this was the path she had dreamed of. Faces unmasked, emotions raw and honest. "What if we faced this together?" Claire suggested, her eyes bright with hope. "Maybe we can set time aside each week to talk it all through. No matter how it unfolds, we can navigate this maze together. Better together." Taking a deep breath, Dave nodded slowly. "All right, let's do that. I want to try." For the first time in a long while, Mary felt the warmth of connection returning. Yet beneath that warmth, a flicker of doubt whispered through her. What if old habits crept back in, suffocating this new flame they had ignited? "Just remember, it might get uncomfortable, but if we're here for each other—" Mary hesitated, trying to settle her unease. "Can we commit to that? To really communicate?" He nodded once more, this time with conviction, but Mary felt her heart hesitate. They were standing at an intersection of old patterns and new possibilities. Would this commitment hold, or would it merely be a temporary pact until the dust settled? As she looked into Dave's eyes, a question echoed back. Could they truly transform their family through these newfound conversations? Or would they find themselves back at square one, battling the very issues they were uncovering? Before Mary could vocalize her worries, Claire's voice broke through the silence. "We need to make our next steps clear. What are we actually fighting for here?" Mary raised an eyebrow, each word a reminder that they were only beginning this journey of rediscovery. She took a deep breath, feeling hope and uncertainty intertwine. What truths lingered just beneath the surface of their lives, waiting to be uncovered? And how deep would they have to dig to find them? The following week unfolded with an unsteady rhythm, each day marked by a new layer of unease and hope. Mary was determined to track the evolution of their family discussions, lingering moments suspended between fear and the desire for authentic connection. As the week progressed, she penned notes to herself. Shifts in thought streamed ink onto paper like revelations surfacing from murky depths. On Tuesday, she found herself caught in a moment of reflection, her gaze directed out the kitchen window. The sunlight cut through the trees, casting a radiant glow on the backyard, the same backyard where laughter once resounded carefree. With each passing day, the cracks in their family foundation became clearer. This awakening demanded she let go of the habitual smiles that masked deeper feelings. "Can I be honest?" she asked Claire during a rare moment of pause amidst their busy schedules. Claire raised an eyebrow, sitting across the table, fingers drumming gently. "Always," she replied. "I'm scared. I feel like I'm trying to pull us together, but what if I'm just setting us up for more heartache?" The question hung indefinitely, blending with the faint sounds of the world outside, an echo of her internal turmoil. "We can't let that fear paralyze us, Mary. I think we have to trust the process a little. We all want this," Claire reassured her, voice gentle but firm, a bridge over the raging river of uncertainty. It was in that moment that Mary realized it was not just her transformation at stake. It involved everyone reaching for growth together, despite the impending discomfort. Wednesday arrived with a newfound resolve. Dave had agreed to their first family meeting that evening, an opportunity she envisioned as a solidifying step towards real change. As Mary cleaned the table, she wondered how she could present her fears and hopes without overwhelming him. Communication felt like a double-edged sword, one side aimed at openness, the other at vulnerability. "Still the same things, huh?" Mary heard Dave's voice as he entered the living room, and she turned to see him balancing a stack of mail, weariness etched deep in his brow. "Hey, it's about tonight," she began, trying to keep her expression warm. "I was thinking we could explore what we mean by being a family again. It's important, you know?" "Yeah, I hear you," he replied, pacing slightly. "But what if I don't have the right answers? What if I make it worse?" "Then it's an opportunity to learn, Dave. Just embrace your feelings. Tonight should be a safe space," she encouraged, bracing herself for the emotional risk each statement carried. "Right. Safe." He ran his hand through his hair and exhaled deeply. She could sense his anxiety coiling within, unaware if it would loosen or worsen by the evening. Their daughter's laughter erupted from the back, a cherished sound that reminded Mary of the love that still resided amidst the chaos. However, she would not allow her mind's preconceived notions to soften the impact of what laid ahead. She had to confront their family dynamics unflinchingly tonight. As dusk settled, all three gathered in the living room, the atmosphere heavy with untold truths. Mary took a deep breath and plunged into the conversation, laying bare her fears and visions, the darkness of doubt woven into her words. She poured her heart out, untamed and unfiltered, her trembling hands resting against her knees. Claire followed suit, boldly voicing her struggles and desires, while Dave sat silently, absorbing each confession as if they were cannon fire. Mary glanced at him, and for the first time she saw a flicker of something. Fear mixed with determination. Would that flicker spark a flame or extinguish into nothingness? "Each of us carries so much weight," Claire mused, her words slicing through the tension. "But that weight doesn't have to be ours to bear alone." Finally, Dave spoke. "I've felt invisible for a long time. I thought work was everything, but now I see I've neglected this, us." Mary's heart quickened. This kind of raw honesty was the catalyst she had envisioned. Yet alongside hope, a question crept into her mind. Could he truly break free from the past and embrace the family he had almost forgotten? "Then let's be honest with each other," Mary suggested, steadiness growing in her tone. "About what we want. What do you think needs to shift for us to get there?" As silence descended again, Mary felt the weight of what they were articulating. This was an initiation into uncharted territory. Raw feelings had been unleashed that demanded exploration. They were standing on the precipice of transformation, but without commitment, even the most vulnerable moments could dissolve back into habit. The clock ticked softly, and in that stillness the truth echoed, a doorway opened to the possibility of a familial renaissance. Mary took a deep breath, willing herself to hold space for what was to come. Behind closed eyes she wondered, was Dave ready to truly face the fears he had avoided for so long? Or would they again retreat under the heaviness of unexamined burdens? The shadows of what they would unveil next loomed closer. The family meeting unfolded slowly, each moment pregnant with potential. Mary felt an undercurrent of trepidation beneath the hope that had begun to blossom within their midst. As they shared their truths, she sensed the atmosphere thickening. Honesty had an undeniable weight, one that could either uplift or crush if ignored. "Let's start with something we could do differently," Claire suggested, her voice carrying an assertive timbre that cut through the tension. "What's one change we each believe could help us reconnect? I think those small shifts can lead to bigger improvements." Dave shifted in his seat, absorbing the question as if it were a novel concept. Mary held her breath, waiting for him to engage fully. Finally, he spoke. "I think I need to be here, really be here, when I'm home. Sometimes I don't engage because I feel overwhelmed, but I realize stepping back affects you both deeply." "Engagement starts with presence," Mary affirmed, feeling a surge of validation. "It means shutting down the distractions and really listening to what we need." The power of her words amplified in the room, igniting a spark of determination within her. Claire picked up the thread, her eyes brightening. "And I want us to schedule family nights. No phones, no work, just us. It could be about cooking together, movie nights, or even going for walks. We need to prioritize those connections." "Family nights," Dave repeated, his brow furrowing slightly as he considered it. "I can do that. I think it's a start." The possibilities opened like a blooming flower, and a sound of cautious optimism filled the room. "And what about emotionally?" Mary probed, emboldened by the responsiveness they were witnessing. "On a deeper level, we need to articulate our feelings regularly, not just at the moment of crisis. We've been avoiding tough discussions for too long. A simple check-in every week might keep us connected." "I like that idea," Claire said, a grin breaking through her earlier tension. "We can share our highs and lows so it doesn't build pressure." As the conversation flowed, Dave looked visibly present, his features softening amid their exchanges. "Checking in sounds helpful, more like a casual family catch-up than an interrogation," he remarked with a hint of humor. Mary felt a rush of relief sweep through her. This wasn't just an empty promise, it felt actionable. They were establishing a conduit for genuine connection. "Strengthened ties come with effort and willingness from all of us," she noted. "We've taken the first step toward a more united family today, and I believe we can keep this momentum going." The gravity of their discussion had transformed the air around them. Unearthed vulnerabilities began weaving into a tapestry of understanding, fostering emotional resilience. Still, an inherent question lingered in the depths of Mary's mind. Would they remain committed to these new patterns amidst life's inevitable chaos? "Here's the pivotal moment," Claire interjected, sensing the weight of Mary's unspoken fears. "Before we end today, let's promise to walk this path together, reminding each other when it becomes hard." Dave nodded firmly. "Agreed. This family matters, and I'll do whatever it takes to make it work," he said, his voice steady and sincere. As the heart of the conversation shifted, clarity enveloped the room. What Mary had feared as a fraught confrontation transformed into a space of potential growth. Their openness had blossomed into hope and connection, a powerful boon for their family. "Can we create a family motto, something to remind us of this goal?" Claire suggested, her enthusiasm palpable. "Words that embody our commitment to stay present and connected?" Mary felt a rush of inspiration. "How about together we thrive? It embodies not only our need for one another, but for personal growth too." As they collectively agreed with enthusiasm, the phrase began to resonate, a manifestation of the aspirations they yearned to achieve. The week continued with newfound intention. Each day, they embarked on small rituals, check-ins over breakfast, committed family nights filled with laughter, and the nurturing of Claire's culinary passion as a bridge back to each other. Fast forward 3 months later, Mary stood in the kitchen, aglow with the ambiance of their connections deepening. The clatter of pans and the sweet aroma of cinnamon wafting through the air signaled lunch prep. But the real essence of her peace radiated from the bonds they were crafting. The transformation was palpable. Each family member now contributed equally, Dave deliberately engaging, while Claire combined stress relief with joyous creativity. Their familial motto adorned the wall, a constant reminder to navigate the complexities of life together. The day she had envisioned for so long had finally started to unfurl before her. It wasn't without its challenges. They still faced hurdles, but there was no longer that pervasive silence. Mary sat down with a cup of coffee, reflecting on the journey. The nervousness that had once gripped her was now replaced with a solid confidence. She felt recognized and competent as a mother, navigating and cultivating not just her own spirit, but that of her loved ones. Foundational change had been achieved through courage, unyielding love, and relentless commitment. The phone chimed with a notification, a message from Claire. "Mom, when can we have another bake-off night together?" A smile spread across Mary's face, recognition dawning that they had built a space for joy to flourish. She typed back quickly, "How about tonight? Together, we thrive." With anticipation stirring in her heart, Mary felt a sense of satisfaction wash over her. They had chosen connection, woven with understanding. They had leapfrogged into a realm of emotional engagement that promised resilience for years to come. Change was a valid pursuit, and together they had conquered the barriers that once hazarded their family life. Now, the horizon gleamed with possibility and hope. If you found this emotional journey impactful, you need to subscribe now for more exclusive stories that delve into personal growth and transformation. This is the moment to show your support and to leave a like now to feed the algorithm, helping us reach more people. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your engagement makes a difference. Comment below your thoughts or theories about Mary's journey.